Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who is starting to have doubts about the New England Patriots playoff hopes. Kyle, how's it going?
Doing pretty good. Took a big hit today. Rough weekend for my sports team, so I did not enjoy that.
Yeah, Kyle, and a rough weekend for your picks too. Meanwhile, I have another perfect week. My picks I've been on fire these past few weeks.
Yeah, nobody cares about that.
Okay, nobody cares. I think people tend to care more. I think you think people care more when you're doing well.
I think so. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes.
Okay. Well, Kyle, an amazing week. Unfortunately, we're going to start the show off with one of the worst games of the week. Although still plenty to talk about here. The lateral Amari Cooper to Josh Allen, that was fun. Bills look very good. This 49ers team, which again, even in this game, I don't know how much I want to blame them for not being able to play well in a snowstorm against Buffalo. But Niners I think this feels like one team feels like maybe a Super Bowl winner, and the other team just feels like they're out of it here.
Yeah, I mean that was the start. That was the big thing, right? That it felt like such a absolute mismatch. Like even if healthy, I don't know if these are even teams right now. I thought Buffalo dominated up front. They dominated the line of scrimmage, and I mean San Francisco didn't even look like they knew how to run in this game. Obviously, with the snow. Yeah, so this was a mismatch. It looked like a dominant performance, and Buffalo basically was on cruise control the second half. So I thought it was good stuff.
Yeah, I mean they're basically on cruise control in the first half too. I mean it was dominant. They had that big James Cook run. It was just crazy. I mean I didn't even think the 49ers, you look at their overall numbers and stuff, they're not horrible. The big thing is that the turnovers, losing 3 fumbles. I mean it's going to be an uphill climb already. That just made it impossible.
Yeah, you also generally need more than 94 passing yards.
Yeah, usually, but again, it's I don't disagree. But the Bills had 152 total passing yards. It was just It wasn't that game.
Yeah, it wasn't. So yeah, I mean it definitely feels like that. But yeah, I mean the turnovers were killer. I mean for a while their best thing was their special teams with Deebo Samuel on some of these kick returns, and then he fumbled too. Kyle Juszczyk fumbling at the goal line basically put the game to rest because once they didn't score there, it felt like it was fully over. Yeah, I don't know what to do with this team right now. They're 2 games back in the division. That seems to be, at this point, probably the only way they're getting to the playoffs, and that might require them to win out. And I don't even know if this team can do that at this point.
Yeah, no, I think they're dead. I did my playoff predictions video. I recorded it. I still have to edit it, but I didn't even talk about them. I just said I just don't think it's happening.
Yeah, I mean they still got the Rams at Miami, home to Detroit, and at Arizona to end the season. So
I don't know if 5-0 would be enough.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine even going through that stretch unscathed. So I think that I would agree. I think this team's done.
Yeah. Are we viewing the Bills as, I don't know, are they favorites here in the AFC? I mean, they played the Lions, so getting to 1 seed is going to be tough. It's still possible, but tough. But I mean, I don't know. Look at what they're doing.
They absolutely can win it all. I mean, I would put them as the favorites in the AFC right now. I think they are.
Let's put it this way. If we're doing the college football rankings, they're number 1 in the AFC.
I would probably leave this stream if we had to do college football rankings. But yeah, they would be. I mean, they're probably at least the 2 or 3 seed right now for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as in the whole NFL.
Yes.
Yeah, and probably 1 in the AFC. No, they're playing really good football. And hey, they can play in the cold, which they haven't always been able to do. So that's good too. I don't know. Josh Allen was a 49ers fan. Is the new strategy just draft 49ers fans? Feels like a high hit rate.
Yeah, they generally do well. I guess, is everyone just a 49ers fan at one point? Although at least with Brady, it made sense because that was Montana era. Was he just a huge Jeff Garcia guy? I don't.
They brought up Alex Smith. It was I don't know why, but it felt weird to me. It feels weird seeing you grew up with the same players I grew up with.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Alex
Smith.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, okay, you big 49ers fan, probably a big Joe Montana guy, and then it's to bring up I don't know, Alex Smith. I'm just like, oh, well, that makes me feel worse.
I can't imagine he's the exact opposite of Alex Smith.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it really is. That's true. How did he model his game off? Maybe he just saw Alex Smith was like, that's not the right. He was probably like at the bar, like, I guess not at the bar if he was growing up, but like at the playground, like Alex Smith needs to take more chances.
Yeah, I needs to be more aggressive here, but I like his game management style.
Kyle, Chris Collinsworth was on one tonight. He was talking
Yeah.
about fantasy football at one point. I forget what else he was doing, but he was just, he was barely talking about the game.
Do you think he was just so cold? He was like, "I'm just going to talk about whatever, so I don't have to stop moving my mouth."
I think he was just bored. I think he was just
Yeah,
like riffing.
yeah, definitely wasn't the best football game. I can imagine, like, could he even see through all that snow? I mean, that's got to be difficult too.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably maybe had something in his hot chocolate. I don't know. But interesting game. Let's move on, Kyle. Plenty of stuff to talk about. I mean, so many of these games are good. Was this the best week we've had this season? I think yes, right?
It's in the conversation, and not to mention with college on Saturday, it was like 4 straight days of football. Like I'm in a complete daze right now. I'm definitely going to get stuff wrong in this week, and anyone in the comments, I'm just saying this now. I'm sorry in advance. There was a lot happening this weekend, so I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey, in the comments, let us know. Help us out. You can be a part of the conversation as well. Let's go Eagles Ravens, just because this was billed as kind of the headliner of the week. The Eagles, Kyle, you've been on this Eagles team. I mean, when we were doing the preview, you were kind of like, this is a much more complete team. I was kind of on the side of like, well, the Ravens offense I think is better, the best unit, but sometimes just the best most complete team wins, and that's kind of what happened to Philadelphia here. Of course, special teams help played a role as well, but yeah, I mean, this was
Yeah.
a this Eagles team, especially with some of the injuries the Lions have, which we'll get into. Like this feels like maybe the most complete team in football.
Yeah, yeah, they're in that conversation right now. I thought they played really well in this game. I thought Jalen Carter was a bit of a game wrecker in this one. I felt like he could have got like 10 more holding calls, and like I think he got 0. Um, but I thought he played fantastic in this game. I thought he made some huge plays, stopping the Ravens offense in the backfield a few times. Um, Yeah, I mean, I think both teams could look at this and say, Eagles say we played really well, we dominated up front, we did what we had to do. I think Ravens could also say, like, if you look at the game script, we had more yards per play, we had more plays, we had more first downs. We kind of did what we wanted to do, and we missed 2 field goals and an extra point. And maybe that's another conversation to have. I watched this game though, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really want to make this like a anti-Lamar segment. And, I have a lot of respect for him. We've done a lot of pro Lamar stuff on this podcast. He's going to win his 3rd MVP. It's all deserving. But I also watched this game, and it's just like, you cannot miss some of those plays that he missed when they went up 9-0 in this game. And if a good team is not playing well, you have to kill them. You have to go for the kill shots. And so Ravens go up 9-0 in this game after that missed extra point. Philly goes backwards, 3 and out, punts. The very next play, he basically has a touchdown to Isaiah Likely. He missed the throw. They go 3 and out and punt. Philadelphia again, another stagnant drive. They're forced to punt, but they do pin Baltimore back at the 1-yard line. He has a 3rd and 5 at the Baltimore 6 and has Zay Flowers wide open. He might have had 20 yards, never mind the first down on the 3rd and 5, and he threw it at his shoe. He just threw it at his shoe, and then all of a sudden that flips the game kind of, because it's a punt. That's a short punt from the end zone. Philadelphia takes the ball over in Baltimore territory, goes down and scores. They score again, and it just felt like from there they kind of had control of the game. And those are just the plays I watch from him where it's like, I understand the naysayers at this point. And I don't want to always understand the naysayers, but there are plays like that I see that is just like, there are 20 guys in the NFL that can make those throws. And yes, there are plays that Lamar Jackson can do that other people cannot, but those are just unexcusable mistakes, I think, from an MVP caliber quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This was a bad game by Lamar. There's no getting around it. Like this, and the thing about Lamar is, it does feel like his bad games are worse than the other top guys' bad games. I still think he's been the best quarterback in football this year, but like this was a down game. Speaking of things that are going wrong for the Ravens, as a super chat brings up, Tucker has missed field goals in each Ravens loss this year. In 3 of the 5 losses, the misses were more points than the difference in the final score. What to do? We have to have the discussion. Kyle, I've always been a believer in this. Like, you have a whole team. You can't just. I know Tucker's a legend. I know what he's accomplished. He's not making field goals. I think you say, hey, buddy, let's pretend let's do the old you have a calf injury and you're gonna have to sit this out for the rest of the year. Let's bring someone else on and let's get a guy who can make field goals. I mean, he's not playing well.
Yeah, I get he's a legend for the team and all that, and he was one of the best kickers of all time, but it's still a position where that it's just a results based position, and as much as he matters to that franchise at one point, you have to put your team in the best position to succeed, and he's not it right now. He just isn't. He missed too many chances in this game for sure.
Yeah, and maybe the logic is like, well, we trust he's not going to melt down, and that's why I kind of like the idea of just like saying like, hey, we don't want to cut you. Like let's just do the old, like you have soreness or whatever, which I'm sure he would prefer than just getting outright cut. But like, I don't know. It's an issue. It's just an issue for Baltimore, and you can't lose games with that. And I don't think that you should make the decision. I mean, you have to factor in what he's done to the decision because that's what he's could maybe do. But at the same time, like you can't just keep him on the roster because of what he's done.
Yeah. No, I agree with it. And I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know if it's an aging thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but the kicks aren't going in, and you have to find someone who can make the kicks. And we've seen that with a few kickers. There was some awful special teams play this week. As far as special teams coverage, fumbles, just felt like mistakes all around, missed field goals. And, I think him and I think we're going to talk about Younghoe Koo a little bit later in the same boat. Like those are guys that have kind of revered for their teams. And when they're not making kicks, like you have to be prepared to end that relationship if it's not working out.
Yeah, huge win for the Eagles. Kyle, how are you feeling about? I'm going to do what you do to me. How do you feel about the Saquon Barkley MVP stuff?
He's not the MVP, but he is playing really well. I'll give him Offensive Player of the Year. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's move on. Big game there. I'm trying to figure out exactly where, because there's so many good games. Where exactly to go? Is it too early to go to my team? Is it too early to do the Bucs Panthers?
No, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, this was a wild game. If for those of you who missed it, the Buccaneers were playing horrible through three quarters. All of a sudden, their offense wakes up. They take a 4-point lead. Bryce Young leads a go-ahead touchdown drive with 30 seconds left. When they get the go-ahead touchdown, Baker Mayfield, who played horrible earlier in the game, gets a nice drive of his own to set up a game-winning field goal or game-tying field goal. The Buccaneers finally win a coin toss in overtime. They go for a field goal, a 55-yard field goal, and miss it. The Panthers get in field goal range, only to fumble the football, and then Tampa Bay gets the ball back, wins it, keeps kind of the season alive, really, and all of a sudden is tied for the division lead in the NFC South. This was Kyle, my heart was racing throughout. This was a wild game.
Yeah. This was insane. Like you said, all the plays, the back and forth stuff. It was really just a sloppy game from Tampa Bay too. Like they just also did not play well, along with Carolina also making it competitive. But yeah, it was just a weird game, man. Like another one, bad special teams plays. Eddie Pinheiro missing 2 kicks in this one. Chuba Hubbard, who had been fantastic this season with that late fumble and all that, and then all of a sudden it's a Tampa Bay win, and that's kind of what they needed. Sometimes it's nice to win ugly still. And you got the ugly win, and hopefully you can keep this momentum going to, continue on this stretch as you try and go for that division title.
Yeah, I said in my video, my reaction video, that we've had enough quality losses. I'm glad. I'll take an ugly win. I prefer these. You brought that fumble, which was just a bad play by Hubbard, although a good play by Anthony Nelson to make the fumble happen. Adam Thielen right before that had like one of the catches of the year where it's a 3rd down and 5, so they probably punt the ball away if they don't get it, and Adam Thielen just makes a crazy one-handed catch to give them the first down and get them in field goal range before they fumbled. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of mistakes. Carolina dropped several passes that could have got extended drives. There was a weird play where it looked like Adam Thielen had a touchdown and they ruled it incomplete on the field and then didn't overturn it. I guess they felt maybe the ball was bobbled at the end, and that's why they couldn't overturn it. But it felt like there was enough evidence, so that Carolina had to settle for 3 there. Like Carolina really could have ran away with this early on had they not made some mistakes. So Tampa Bay definitely a little lucky. Again, like I said, Baker Mayfield played poorly. He also got injured and seemingly played better after the injury. So maybe he just needs to get banged up to play well. I don't know. But this offense was the Bucky Irving and Mike Evans show. I mean, Mike Evans was fantastic, and then Bucky Irving, who I think has just really been an unbelievable draft pick for them.
Yeah. No, that's been your offenses these last few weeks, and they showed up again this one. Bucky Irving was fantastic in this game, like you said, and when you didn't get good quarterback play for the first time in a while with Baker Mayfield, you got great running back play, and that made up the difference for sure. So, just an interesting game overall for Tampa. Like, it was definitely sloppy, but like, I'm not like putting too much into it. Like, they should dominate their next game against Las Vegas. We'll see how that game goes, obviously. And then they have 3 winnable games down the stretch. They're going to have to play this team again, though. And, this suddenly challenging Carolina Panthers team, they are being a thorn in everyone's side. And I think it comes down to you have to look at Bryce Young and what he's doing. Adam Thielen coming back from injury, what he's been able to do for this receiving core. And, like, this is a tough team to play all of a sudden. They look good. They're not getting the results they need, but they do look good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Bryce Young was the best quarterback in this game. I mean, he wasn't perfect. He did have a couple of missed throws, but like he had some really good plays. And even one of his missed throws was the Adam Thielen one-handed catch. So it still worked out. Like, I mean, some of the plays he was making was really well done. And it was what we saw in college of being able to navigate the pocket, extend plays, and make something happen. So yeah, I mean, I was very impressed. I've been very impressed with him this past month or so. And I mean, if you're a Panthers fan, I think we said going into this season, it's all about Bryce Young. That's all you got. And I don't know, a month and a half ago, we were saying it's a done deal. Time to move on, get a new quarterback. I think you got to keep him. I mean, if you get a great quarterback prospect falling into your lap, take that guy. But like, I think as of right now, I'm totally fine if I'm the Panthers, giving him another year.
Yeah, you can absolutely give him another year. At this point, if he continues to play this well down the stretch, we'll see. Obviously, it could regress a little, but if he does play well down the stretch, I'm definitely okay with giving him another year. I still think you draft a quarterback, even if it's like a 3rd, 4th round quarterback, maybe give him someone to give him some competition. But, I do think right now he has earned the right to compete for the job, and he's looked good. So I absolutely do that. Do believe that. Will we get a film breakdown of Kyle Trask's throw in this?
I should do that. Yeah, I should give him his 2 plays. One was a handoff and the other was a screen pass. Yeah.
You had to do the all caps. He played great.
Yes, exactly. Perfect game. Yeah. It always passes. Exactly.
Yeah, we need that one.
My last thought on this game: what are we doing with this Trenton Gill thing? He's been an awful punter. Part of how Bryce Young was able to get the touchdown drive is he misses the landing zone on the big. Like it's one of those weird things. Like every now and then a team just like can't figure something out. Like we can't figure punting out.
Yeah. There's got to be one guy available. I mean, it's literally just kicking a ball. How many times do I have to be over this with these kickers and punters? You're just kicking a ball. It's your one job.
It's like that ninja tweet of like, how do kickers just miss?
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, let's just get somebody out there that can punt the ball. How about that?
Yeah, it always goes back to like special teams, which we'll get into with some other teams too. It's like they don't have to win you the game; they just can't lose you the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, exactly. So big spot there.
Speaking of lose you the game, let's stick in the NFC South and let's talk some Kirk Cousins here, Kyle. Who this was a bad game, Kyle. When Kirk Cousins threw. Yes. Kirk Cousins threw his 2nd interception of the day, and I tweeted out, I think it's something along the lines of like, are we sure Desmond Ridder isn't playing? He would go on to throw 2 more interceptions, including one of the worst interceptions of the year in the end zone. He had multiple, he had 4 interceptions in a day. This was a disaster by Kirk Cousins in a very winnable game. The Falcons defense kind of finally showed up. I thought Bijan Robinson, despite the not great stats, I thought he was really good in this game, actually. Yeah. Drake London is just a monster. That guy can play. And yet, it really was Kirk Cousins. I mean, it was a disaster. This was a completely winnable game. If they win this game, they're completely in the driver's seat for the division. Now they need to make something happen. It was an absolute mess.
Yeah. Which player do you think had a higher QBR in this game?
As between Herbert and
Kirk
Cousins,
Cousins. Yeah.
I would assume Herbert did.
No, he did not.
Okay,
Kirk Cousins had a QBR of 34.4, and Justin Herbert had a QBR of 27.4.
we might need to rethink that stat. Do we have any idea what that actually is? Have we ever
No,
figured that
no.
out? No. Okay.
The only thing they told us was that it grades 1 to 100, 0 to 100. So
Yes,
it's supposed
and
to
that's
be
why
easier.
people like it because like, oh, I know that, I can figure that out.
Yeah, the scale makes sense. It's like
Hmm.
Fahrenheit to Celsius all over again. But yeah, I think this was a very bad game. I think the reason why his QBR is higher is because they did have some monster plays in this game. Ray McLeod had some huge plays. Drake London obviously had his numbers, and there just wasn't a lot of explosive plays from Los Angeles. And honestly, their offense wasn't even that good. They didn't have an offensive touchdown. Or did they? No, they did not. So yeah, it wasn't a great offensive performance for Los Angeles, but like, yeah, I mean that was a disaster of a game for Atlanta. This team struggles. I don't like watching it. That's it.
No, yes, a lot there. You're right. The Chargers. The story of this game should be the Chargers' offense has looked rough. Are we sure the Chargers are legit? Like that's what we should be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If Cousins just played, honestly, if Desmond Ridder was there, the Falcons win this game. Like this was a really bad game by Kirk Cousins, and he's had some really good games this season. So I don't want to say like this is who he is, but it just feels like when he has his bad game, it's just a complete meltdown.
Yeah, he's had several of those this year.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've kind of been tooting the same horn with Atlanta this year, man. Like, I'm just not really convinced with a lot of their wins. That Eagles team was a lot different in week 2 than it is now. And then everything else is NFC South or the Cowboys. And the Cowboys almost came back and won that game too. Like, I think they're going to drop to 6-7. They probably beat the Raiders and Giants. And then after that, I think I'm throwing my hands up and said, who knows? Because like, I just don't think this is a team that's not buying. I'm not buying into this team beating quality opponents. And I think the Vikings, Commanders, and Panthers can take care of them.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's a chance they win the division. I don't think
Mhm.
that they're dead. I think they can get things turned around because they have the tiebreaker over Tampa Bay, and the Saints and Panthers, their records just aren't good enough to compete. So, I still think there's a real chance. I don't know. I want to see Michael Penix. I think Michael Penix is good. I think Michael Penix will be better than Kirk Cousins right now.
Potentially. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's what was so bizarre about this. Because are you going to bench Kirk Cousins after year 1 of a, what was it, 4-year contract? Like, I know the contracts, it's not all guaranteed money, all that kind of stuff. But like, how do you, if this is how it kind of ends and they miss the playoffs and this is like, he's not going to be this bad down the stretch. But like, if he's not productive down the stretch, like, how do you handle that contract in year 2 as a backup quarterback?
I mean, probably due to Russell Wilson thing, right? Like you cut him and move on. I mean, you're looking at his cap hit now. It's 40 million next year. If they cut him, it would be 65 million. I think that's probably what you do. Is if this is how it ends, they said they're going to keep him. We'll see if it can be fixed. But it's just the Falcons are so one read dependent. The Chargers took that away, and there wasn't much else they could do.
Yeah. So it's a tough spot for them. Do you want to do your Chargers bit? Obviously, you mentioned the offense and their struggles, and can this team compete?
Yeah.
I mean,
Real quick. Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna real quick. There's a super chat, so I'll get out of the way and then I'll answer your question. Do the Titans have a chance against the Jags next week? The mailman wasn't bad today, but special teams sucks ass. Yeah, they got it. I think they're probably favored, right?
Yeah, they should beat the Jaguars.
Yeah,
Since Aziz Al Shair is kind of an asshole.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we'll,
they're
we'll
going to
get
be
into that.
favored by a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. But you were gonna ask me a question. What was it?
So you mentioned like the Chargers off. The other storyline that would have been the storyline if the Falcons
Hmm.
you know didn't turn the ball over 4 times.
Yeah.
This Chargers offense hasn't been great the last couple weeks. This team's kind of gearing up for a playoff run here. How do you evaluate them? Where are you at with this team?
I mean, I feel like they're the Broncos with a 6-year quarterback, right? I mean, like I
Mhm.
just feel like this receiving core I mean, Kyle, their second leading receiver in this game was Quentin Johnston, who had 2 catches for 12 yards, and another drop in there. I mean, this is like Ladd McConkey had over 100 yards, so like, okay, he's been a hit. He's been good. They just don't have the depth there. I like this team. I like their defense, although part of me feels like maybe a good offense can pass down the field against them, like we saw with Cincinnati. I just, I like the Chargers team. I just don't think they're good enough to beat a team like the Bills, and they play the Chiefs next week. That's a real test for them, I think.
Yeah, it is going to be a test for them. I mean, I think like this team, I do think has issues. Obviously, I think like it's ahead of schedule is the thing for me. Like I think Ladd McConkey's proven that he can be a real guy on this team. I mean, there is that whole thing too about like they barely got Junior Colson this season, who was their 3rd-round pick, and there's this whole thing about like Jim Harbaugh doesn't have the linebackers to run his actual like scheme he wants to run. So they're like playing this well defensively without like the linebackers that they actually want on the field. Like, I think that's kind of remarkable. They've had like Joey Bosa miss some time this year. You know, they've had some of their star edge rushers miss time. And I do think they are ahead of schedule. Mm-hmm. And I am optimistic about Jim Harbaugh in the future with this team. But yeah, I just think that there are some issues. You know, I think that there are teams that, like you said, are going to be able to throw on this team because of the personnel at the end of the day, even though I do think this is a good defense. And then I just think they're going to struggle to get open against some of the best teams. However, I think one of the things you have to remember is that, like, they're not great defenses in the AFC. Like, I think outside of Pittsburgh, like, it's not like they're like facing a gauntlet against any of these opponents.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's not unfair. I think that if you're a Chargers fan, you should be thrilled about how the season has gone. I just think that this is probably the year before the year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they have an opportunity to add a few guys. If they go and get, you know, I played pickup football today. Funny enough, nice. This morning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a couple touchdowns. No big deal. So I was one of my friends, though, is a Chargers fan, and we were talking about it. And he said he wants T. Higgins, and I don't know if they're going to be able to pay for T. Higgins. But, like, you know, this does feel like it's a team that could trade for a receiver and add some more personnel to their defense and kind of be there. They're going to be that trendy team in the offseason.
Yeah, I think so as well. Let's move on because we've still got a lot to get to. Let's go Seahawks Jets. This was a game that, so I locked up the Seahawks and immediately the Jets get up to a 14-0 lead. And I'm thinking, okay, clearly the Jets are just a great team when I lock up the other team, because I locked up Houston earlier this year against them, and then the Jets won. But really, this game kind of swung on. So the Jets got up to a big lead. The Seahawks started to make things more competitive. And then there was a moment where Aaron Rodgers had a wide open Garrett Wilson. He misses him. I think he blamed the wind for that or something. And then after it, he throws a pick six to Leonard Williams. It was a 96-yard pick six, which was the longest pick six a 300-plus pound player has received. Leonard Williams, what a game he had. Had a couple key sacks in here as well. Seahawks able to ultimately take the victory. So huge win for the Seahawks. But yeah, and the Jets are the Jets.
Yeah, this was a wacky first half and then kind of cooled down in the second half. Although the Jets apparently are very upset about the officiating in this game. I don't know. I didn't see anything crazy. They just committed a lot of penalties, man. That felt like the big thing. Yeah, I just think that's it was a weird game. Seahawks managed to weather the storm. Another team with some awful special teams play today. Seattle had some disasterful plays. I mean, this was probably the worst special teams performance of the day. It was a mess. And yeah, they still managed to kind of right the ship and get it going, and they were okay at the end of the day. So it's a good win for them, and I think that they've done a very good job.
Jackson Smith and Jigba had more yards than DK Metcalf. Keeps that going.
Yeah, that stats remaining true. What was I going to ask you? Oh, you love it when I do this, so we're going to do it again. You did it to me earlier. How do you like it feels like it's TJ Watt or bust at this point. How do you like a Leonard Williams Defensive Player of the Year campaign?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, the thing is, he doesn't have like the bulk stats to get it right. He is currently at, I believe, 7 sacks on the year. So like, it's hard for an interior guy to get it unless it's like an Aaron Donald type year. But yeah, I mean, he should be in the conversation he's someone who should be in the conversation. TJ Watt should be
Yeah.
leading that conversation.
Yeah, I don't even know who's second at this point because obviously, like Myles Garrett hasn't had the year, and I just think with that team not performing, I think he's gonna kind of be out. Like, is it like Xavier McKinney is like the next guy? I don't even know who to put next.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably Xavier McKinney or maybe Leonard Williams. I mean, Leonard Williams has been. It's Kyle. All of the former Giants are just being awesome. Like Julian Love has been great. Like it's I don't know what's happened, but even like these like good players that were Giants are now just being like superstars.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. Like the thing is like he got traded for so much and then paid so much. It was like it's one of those things where it was like, he's being treated like a superstar and he's just a very good player situation, and now he's playing like a superstar. So it's fantastic. I guess Zach Baum would also be in that situation now that he's Brian Urlacher.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Any thoughts on the Giant? Any thoughts on the Jets? No. Right.
No, man, this team's so annoying. Like, I don't know. Now, they're gonna complain about the refs after this game. Like, you have no right to complain about anything but yourselves. You really don't. Like, that's the first part of this. Like, you have made this bed and now you have to lay in it. Come on now.
Yeah, I think so as well. Devontae Adams had a play where he just like threw the defensive back to the ground and then got like a 50-yard completion and then was like, "What do you mean? Well, I can't do that?"
Yeah, that's not allowed. Definitely a weird team. I don't know. Like now they're 3-9. Like I would be okay not talking about this team the rest of the year. I think Jets fans would like to not talk about this team the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think Jets players might like people to not talk about them for the rest of the year as well. We talked about the Seahawks. Let's go to their division rival, the Cardinals, who these teams play each other next week. That game almost certainly is going to decide the division. But Arizona didn't have to have that happen. There was a moment when it looked like they were going to win this game and the Seahawks were going to lose their game. And then Arizona maybe wouldn't have to win next week to win the division. But things got off the rails. It was a fascinating game in that the Cardinals seemed like they had Sam Darnold's number. They were blitzing a lot and the blitzing was working. And then really the Vikings kind of went back to the ground game. They were able to get just enough to kind of keep the Cardinals honest. And then they passed a lot on first downs, which was able to get the ball down the field. They took the lead and ultimately won the game. I mean, it was a surprising win by Minnesota, but definitely a gutsy win for them as well to be able to pull off a big win here, going up to 10-2.
Yeah, very gutsy win, and I didn't think their defense even played that well in this game, and they still managed to get just enough stops to turn it around. I would not recommend Kyler Murray ever throw another pass with his back running backwards.
Yeah,
that was a pretty bad interception.
Yeah.
I think that's a bad idea. That's my opinion as a non-quarterback.
Right, you just score touchdowns, you don't throw them.
Yeah, I don't throw. No, not at all. So as a non-quarterback, though, I still would not recommend that. But yeah, it was crazy because they didn't really run the ball all that much. They struggled defensively. They struggled to get stops outside of those two interceptions. And yet here they are emerging from this game 23-22. So I thought that Darnold, like you said, settled into the game, played very well down the stretch. He hit his receivers, Justin Jefferson, another monster day. And, they managed to do it again.
Yeah. And it is interesting. I mean, the Vikings are the Vikings. I think we know that this is the team that still feels like they have some flaws with this team, obviously, but like they are still winning games, and I think they still have good pieces that I like. Do we feel like they're that different than the 13-3 Kirk Cousins team?
The defense is better. Like. That's the thing. Like, no, that's the thing. I've been kind of saying this though. Like, I don't think they compete with the three teams in the NFC right now. The teams I view as the top three in the NFC, at least. I don't think they compete with him right now. I think that they are a very good story. I think the defense has overperformed expectations. Guys like they brought in guys like Stephon Gilmore who are continuing to have amazing seasons. They do all this kind of stuff. I think they've done a very good job on the margins with this team, and Darnold has overperformed expectations. But asking Darnold to play in the playoff game against one of those teams, I'm not buying it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Timothy with a super chat. QBR has the 2019 Baker Mayfield even with the 2023 Baker Mayfield. Yeah, QBR has some maybe some flaws.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say back to the drawing board.
Yeah, or maybe it makes sense, but like if I don't know what the data is, I can't like there's gonna
Verify
be
it.
other factors. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Like
yeah,
passer rating has this weird stuff. Like we know what the weird stuff is, so we can kind of factor that in.
yeah. I just think because there are a lot of like catch-all metrics in like baseball and basketball, obviously now.
Mhm.
I just don't think catch-all metrics work in a sport with like 44 players on the field at all time. It's just very hard.
Yeah, I think so as well. 40, not 44 at all times, but I get
Well,
what you're
yeah,
saying.
22.
Yes.
That's what I meant. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, 44 starters. Yeah,
yeah,
but no, I mean, Kyler Murray needs to play better, right?
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I mean that interception was inexcusable down the stretch. Throw up 19-13. He does not need to take that chance, and
Hmm.
he overthrew his guys by 5 yards. I mean, like I thought he played really good, and then had 2 or 3 pretty bad decisions in this game, and those 2 or 3 pretty bad decisions might have cost them.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more in the preview, but next week can't be overstated for the Cardinals and Seahawks. The Cardinals are currently a game behind Seattle. If Seattle wins, they'll be 2 games up and have the tiebreaker. But if the Cardinals win, it'll be tied, and the Seahawks schedule is much tougher than the Cardinals. So the Cardinals probably win if they so I think that game decides the division.
Yeah, I think I agree.
All right. Well, let's move on. Still plenty to talk about. Let's go to is this again? Maybe it's too early, but I don't know. Let's do it anyway. Let's do your team, just because of the. Someone brought up in the comments how last week when we were previewing this game, I sort of joked about when you locked up the Colts that the Colts were going to win by less than 2.5 points, and therefore your lock wouldn't hit and your team would lose. Ends up happening. Anthony Richardson leads the touchdown drive at the end. They go for 2 and win to win 25-24. Kyle, were you a little bit annoyed when you saw that they were going for 2 there, knowing that your lock wouldn't hit?
Yes, I was a little
Yeah.
bit annoyed in general.
Yeah.
But I was more annoyed by the defense not being able to get off the field on a 19-play drive at the end of the game that led
Uh-huh.
to an 80-yard touchdown drive with 5 minutes and 22 seconds and not getting a single stop. That was annoying. And like we're not a good team. We've had some really dumb losses this year though, man. Like
Hmm.
just like between the Seahawks game, the Dolphins game with like we got close in that one, and then the first Dolphins loss, not the last Dolphins loss where we got blown out. And then this one, some frustrating losses for sure. And I mean, we did everything right until that last drive. The defense I actually thought played well until that last drive, and then they just could not get a stop. And that was frustrating because this was not a very good Anthony Richardson game. He did make some plays at the end, but I didn't think it was very good. And I thought this was Drake May's best game of his career. I mean, I really did. I thought he was throwing the ball really well, throwing with a lot of confidence. He read that zone perfectly. We had a ball bounce off Hunter Henry's leg at the 1 yard line for an interception. That was his interception today. And then other than that, he was basically flawless. I thought, he maybe missed 1 or 2 throws this entire game.
Yeah, I heard a lot of buzz about the Drake May stuff, which is, I mean, Kyle, I know it's disappointing. This is the ideal situation: losing by a point and having Drake May look great.
Yeah. I can't wait to see T. Higgins in a Patriots uniform.
Yes, if the Chargers don't get him.
No, we're getting him. If we have like $200 million in cap space this offseason, if we do not get like any player we want, I'm just gonna like flip a table.
He's going to go to the Chiefs for like a 1-year, $10 million deal, and everyone's going to be mad.
I'm gonna be mad. I've had a miserable weekend. I had my 2 soccer teams lose in devastating fashion. One in the semifinals at the MLS, the other one 5-2 in a rivalry game. I had this stupid team in this stupid game. I'm not in a good mood for this. Stupid teams. I hate sports. Why do we care? Like, why do we actually care about this stuff? Like, it's just such a waste of time. We're all gonna die anyways. What's the point?
Well, I think the point, because we're all going to die, this is the point, is to care about things, to find things you enjoy and spend time doing it.
I'd rather just not care and then die. That's my solution to this. I'm done.
Okay, I'm a little concerned about that. We might get some. Hopefully, we don't get demonetized. Do you get demonetized for vague, like suicidal thoughts?
I hope not. I'm not suicidal, but yeah, that was a I'm not caring about life. I'm just done caring about sports. That's ridiculous. What the
Okay,
heck
well,
is this? A
I
2-point
hope.
conversion at the end of the game? You kidding
Yeah.
me? Come on now.
Yes. Joe says Kyle, you need a hug. I think so. I think everyone prayers for Kyle here.
Yeah, that was not fun.
How did Anthony Richardson play in this game?
Not good. Like, it's the same thing. He makes like 2 or 3 awesome throws, and he makes like 5 or 6 bad throws. I mean, what was it? One of those interceptions was a little unfortunate because it was like a double deflection, but he also threw it right at a linebacker that first deflected it. So I also don't know like how to evaluate that. Like, I thought he made some good throws, but I also thought he made some really bad throws. And it's the same thing. I didn't think he played that well. He had a really good last drive.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, let's move on. Still some interesting games. Let's get into let's talk about some of the games that didn't happen on Sunday. First, let's go to Bears Lions, which this was Kyle, this is all over the place. Because for one thing, I think the Lions Thanksgiving game is always the most watched game because that's when usually guests are showing up around then, right? Like, you have food a little bit later. So it's like you have that game on. It was one of the most baffling things I think that we all saw watching it live of just there's plenty of time and it just like didn't happen. And we could all clearly see it. Matt Eberflus, who after the game says he likes what they did. So if you missed the game, they ran a play. They had 32 seconds left and a timeout. They somehow only get one more play off. That play is the last play of regulation. The clock expires during that final play. The Bears were down 3 points in field goal range in that, or it would have been a long field goal at that point, but ultimately lose because of it. Matt Eberflus after the game says he likes what they did. They have a press conference the next morning where he addresses the media and then gets fired like 2 hours later. So I don't know why I didn't just like cancel that press conference, but Caleb Williams played really well. The Lions, this is not a great game by them, and their defense is starting to get more and more banged up. It's an issue. They're losing their depth there, but the biggest story was just the clock management at the end.
Yeah, it was bad. It was a bad decision. I honestly think, I don't know. I guess the issue is, so there's 2 sides of this, right? The quarterback's on the field in a the clock's running situation. Should he be the one to call the timeout? But also, I think part of the issue was Caleb was trying to get people lined up, and the coach has to step in there and call the timeout. Like, I think you can argue both sides. Like, the quarterback is on the field during run o'clock. He should be the one to call a timeout. But if he's trying to line up DJ Moore and all those guys who aren't on the line of scrimmage at the time, then maybe the coach has to he should run on the field and honestly call a timeout. He should be ready to stop that play. So I think I can hear both sides of it. However, Caleb is going to get the benefit of the doubt because he's a young quarterback. Mm-hmm. Matt Eberflus was not, obviously. Probably not the best Black Friday shopping deals to get fired on that day. But yeah, it was a tough loss for them. String of divisional tough losses for them. They've had 3 of these now. And as to continue to say, Caleb playing well in these games is more important than the wins or losses. But these has to be draining, right? To lose to all 3 of your rivals in just the most ridiculous fashion. Yeah. And yeah, that's got to be really tough.
Yeah, I would think so. Especially on Thanksgiving. Kyle, I was looking others subreddits were posting things about the Bears, non-sports subreddits, just talking about it. It was tough. You can't lose a game like that in on a holiday like the Thanksgiving game. You can't lose it like that. It just can't happen. It was. I think I agree with you where it's okay, there's 2 options. Either Matt Eberflus screwed it up by not calling a timeout earlier, or Caleb Williams wasn't prepared for that play or did something wrong, which is still kind of the coach's fault. So either way, it's not great. I do think Caleb didn't do that properly. I think that he needed to be better at that. That is something you have to be better at. But also, you gotta blame the coaching staff. Kyle, when the Bears first became a team, it was 2 years after World War I. They have never fired a head coach in the middle of the season until now.
Isn't that a crazy stat?
Yeah.
Like they mentioned that it's so wild. So it is interesting. I don't really know what to make of it, but yeah. I think it was a long time coming for the Bears. I mean, this feels very. You're not going to understand this reference, but like, it just felt very reminiscent of like Manchester United this offseason, where like it just felt like they were so ready to fire the coach last season, and then he won a few games at the end of the year, and they say, okay, let's give him another chance, and then all of a sudden it's like we watched this entire season kind of just waiting for it to end, you know, and then here it is ending. It's just like there was never a vision of a future with Matt Eberflus beyond this season. I felt like even in the off season, even when the season started, I just didn't see a vision of him like coaching this team long term. Which brings me to the point, like, why didn't this happen last offseason despite a couple wins?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the third time in a row it's happened because John Fox was the coach for the first year of Trubisky, and then Matt
Mm-hmm.
Nagy took over in year 2, and then Matt Nagy was the coach first year of Fields, and then he gets fired, and then Eberflus takes over. Now Eberflus is fired the first year of Williams. It's interesting. For the Lions, we have to be a little bit concerned here, right? I mean, this is the team that I think we were thinking is like clearly the best team in football. I don't think we're thinking that necessarily now. They have had some injuries. It's a divisional matchup in a short week. I'm not going to crush them for maybe having an underwhelming performance when they still were up pretty big. But I don't think Lions fans were coming away from this game saying, "Oh yeah, no, we're nothing to see here."
Yeah, it is a yeah, I mean, it's just like I was prepared to like watching this first half. I was like, okay, who stops the Lions at this point? And then all of a sudden, it was like they, struggled in the second half moving the ball, and yeah, I mean, I think there is some cause for concern, for sure. And I think the bodies dropping in this defense. I mean, they have found some gritty, tough ways to win games, and I've been impressed with them all season. And I mean, even this was an impressive still stand at times. So like I think they continue to find ways to win. But yeah, I mean I like they have two tough games the next couple weeks, and I wouldn't be shocked if they lose both of them, honestly. And so I still think they right the ship. I still think that they're going to be a contender for the Super Bowl. But with all of these injuries and such, I think they're not playing their best team. They're not playing their best ball at the right time.
Yeah, they played Packers on Thursday, which is still a full week for them because those teams played on Thanksgiving, and then played the Bills the week after. What's interesting about getting the 1 seed for them? So the Eagles are a game behind. If the Lions lose one of the NFC games they have played, which is every game but the Bills, then the Eagles would get the tiebreaker. If the Lions lose against the Bills, that's an AFC game, so then the Lions would keep the tiebreaker. So you can afford to lose that game as long as you win the other 4. So kind of interesting there. But yeah, let's move on to the other, I think, kind of crazy game that was not on Sunday. Raiders Chiefs, which I mean the Chiefs they keep finding a way. Kyle, I think my favorite thing, this has been a trend for a bit now, is people just absolutely losing their mind when a correct call helps the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. Is this the illegal shift thing?
Yeah. So to set the stage at the end of the game, for those of you who missed it, because it's on 3:00 on a Friday, I get that a lot of people have the day off, but not everybody. Anyway, there was a point when the Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders are driving. They're on the outside of field goal range, down 2 points, and then there was as Aiden O'Connell is trying to get everybody set, the ball gets snapped without him realizing it, hits him in the chest. The Chiefs recover and win the game. Many people thought it should have been a false start. But it wasn't. It was an illegal formation, which was the correct call. The Chiefs recover and win the game. And the Chiefs, I don't know what they did in past life, but they're using up all their luck now.
Yeah, they definitely are. But maybe it lasts till the end of the season. Who knows? Maybe they win another Super Bowl this way. It definitely seems like they're playing with some sort of magic at this point. Just a couple wild endings between this one, the Broncos game. I mean, all of them. It feels like at this point of the year. So pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, another special teams thing. Daniel Carlson has to make 3 field goals. He has to make at least one of these, and they win the game.
Can I give a critique of like he's already missing. Like, they're all 50+ yard field goals. He clearly doesn't have the leg for a 55-yard field goal in that weather. Why are we having him still go out there and do that?
Yeah. So what was it? It would have been 49 basically if they just kicked on third
Yeah.
down, which is kind of what I think they should have done without timeouts. But
Yeah.
that wasn't even a process thing. I just was like, you don't have a timeout. Like, I don't know. I'm not trusting Aiden O'Connell to make a throw. I know he actually played well in this game. I thought he was really good, honestly. But like, I'm just not trusting him to make that throw there. Like, I just don't want to risk it.
Yeah, I understand it. I mean, I think it's fine to again. I would rather get rid of some clock if Mahomes is going to get the ball, if possible. I don't have an issue if I think they were trying to throw the ball out of bounds. I also don't have an issue of trying to get closer, but yeah, I mean, I understand it. At the end of the day, though, you can't make that mistake. I thought it's funny where you compare this to the Bears situation. In the Bears situation, we couldn't figure out whose fault it was because nobody was taking blame for it. In the Raiders situation, I couldn't figure out whose fault it was because everyone was taking blame for it. Like there were like 6 guys who were like, oh yeah, that was my fault. So I have no idea whose fault it was.
Yeah. I guess that's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough game. It does stink though. They had some really great moments. Like Brock Bowers was playing through injury and just like the best player on the field in this game that involved like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, all these guys. I mean, he was incredible. I thought Aiden O'Connell had a terrific game. I mean, you could argue he was the better quarterback in this game. And I didn't even think Mahomes played badly. And yeah, I mean, they put themselves in a position to win, and it's another one that the Chiefs come out on top.
Yeah. It was, I agree. This was not Mahomes' best game, but I also agree. I don't think he was horrible in it or anything like that. And just to clear up a couple, things people are saying, the ref did not blow the play dead. That was something that when the fumble happened, and yes, the ref initially signaled false start, but I believe you can still do that for an illegal formation. Sometimes they do that, but also they conferred, they got the right call. Like I don't see it. I don't see how you could argue this was a false start. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I guess the one thing, so there was like a Raiders thing where they said they heard a whistle, and that was the confusing part. But I don't know. Like, I mean, they said they were filing a grievance to the league, but I don't know what's come of that. But that would basically mean they have to acknowledge a mistake. But I don't know.
Yeah, I did listen back. I didn't hear a whistle. Sometimes they don't pick up on the microphone, but I didn't hear one. But either way, we'll see. But at the end of the day, I'm sure only Bills fans are really that upset about it.
Yeah, I mean, they do need this team to lose again, or probably a couple times, honestly. So, but this is the thing. Like, I continue to say, like, it wouldn't be crazy if they drop a couple of games here down the stretch. But like, I don't know who they're losing to at this point.
Well, I mean, again, this Chiefs team has not been impressive this season. Like, it's fair to say, like, this has not been a very impressive team. Like, their past few weeks, I mean, their past 4 weeks, or even go back further, the past 5 weeks of the season is barely beating the Raiders, barely beating the Panthers, losing to the Bills pretty handedly, barely beating the Broncos due to a blocked field goal, and then barely beating the Buccaneers. I mean, this is 5 games that they could have easily be 0-5 in the stretch, and it's not that tough of a stretch.
Yeah. They have 2 double-digit wins, the San Francisco 49ers and the New Orleans Saints. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things, like, they're probably going to play better in the postseason, and it's all going to be fine. But it's a bizarre sequence, and yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that this is the best team in the AFC regardless.
Yeah, if they lose in the first round, no one will be surprised. If they win the Super Bowl, no one will be surprised.
Yep. Yeah, it's a weird team. Like, I just don't know how to describe it. Like, I'm not convinced, but at the same time, we haven't seen a team struggle this much with a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, let's move on. Why don't we? Let's go to Steelers Bengals, which was, I mean, I tweeted this out. The Bengals have scored 27 points 7 times this season. Their record is 2-5 in those games. It's unbelievable, really, how poor this defense has been, and this is with Cincinnati getting essentially a free 7 points. With I don't know how it wasn't a penalty, but there was just like a clear like pass interference by Cam Taylor-Britt. It wasn't called. He gets a pick 6 there. I thought Russell Wilson was fantastic in this game. Sure, Bengals defense, but I still thought he was fantastic in this game. And I mean, for Joe Burrow, it's same old, same old. I didn't think he had his best game in this one either, but like it doesn't matter how much you're putting up. It's not enough.
Yeah, it isn't enough. But he did have several turnovers in this game too,
Yeah.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
there is that part of it. Like it was not his best day, but at the same time, like I mean, he's played almost close to perfect this season, and it still hasn't been close to enough. They're 4-8. They're 4-8 with the guy who's statistically probably the best thrower of the football this season. I mean, that seems impossible. The way
Mm-hmm.
we talk about how much QB wins matter, to
Yeah.
see this quarterback play like this and not win football games consistently, I mean, it's just unbelievable. He's been the best quarterback this year. He just has, and it's just not enough.
I would still say Lamar. I think I agree. He's been the best thrower of football. I still think Lamar has been better. But we can. He's been top 2 at the very least, and again can't get an MVP conversation because the quarterback wins.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a tough situation, but yeah, I mean, I just look at that. I mean, the Steelers offense. I mean, everybody got involved in this game too. I thought it was really impressive. I mean, they worked everybody in this offense. George Pickens had some big plays. Jalen Warren got involved. I mean, it was
George
just
Pickens had a lot of stuff going on.
yeah. I mean, that what's new for this guy? He's like just the most entertaining guy in the league at this point.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, just what a wild human being. He needs a talk show.
Yeah, I'd watch.
But yeah, it's just like I need to hear his thoughts on just everything. Like that's what I need. But yeah, it's just a bizarre game, like you said. But the Steelers offense looked very good, and this is the kind of game you get excited about for the Steelers, seeing this offense perform like this.
Yeah. What's crazy too is so Russell Wilson had 414 passing yards. The leading receiver was Pickens with 74 yards. So I mean, think about how spread out this was. They had, I'm trying to count real quick. They had 9 players of over 20 receiving yards in this game. I mean, that's insane. Yeah, this was a great offensive performance. And yes, it's Cincinnati, but this is what you got to do against a bad defense is you got to be able to put up points like this. And Kyle, we talk about teams that do well in the playoffs are teams that can win in several different ways. That's how why the Chiefs traded away Tyreek Hill is we can win one way. We need to be able to win in different ways. The Steelers, for the longest time, could not win in a game like this. Now they can. And sure, it's Cincinnati, but like this is the team that if a game got into a shootout, usually they were losing that game.
Yeah. I still kind of want to see it against a little bit of a better defense, but at the same time, I mean, they're checking all the boxes. They got a huge stretch coming up. They got to get their revenge on the Browns next week if they can. And then it comes down to Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs. I mean, that's everything we're looking for there. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see those 3 games back to back.
Yeah. My one thought, too, of why I think TJ Watt is the defensive player of the year. We do that whole segment on Leonard Williams in the game he had. TJ Watt also had a very similar game, had 2 sacks. Barely even bring it up because we just expect it from him.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's definitely deserving of the defensive player of the year. I was just like, I don't even know who else is even in the conversation. There's got to be other people in the conversation, right?
Yeah, we gotta have a conversation. I like the in the conversation, which is never actually people we think should win it, but just people we think should be honorable mentions.
Yeah, exactly. So he is our honorable mention. Good job, Leonard Williams.
Yes, there we go. Let's move on. Still 5 games left. The Texans Jaguars was interesting. I mean, the game was the game. Whatever. The play of this game was the Azeez Al-Shaair. Hit Lawrence a little late there, Kyle.
A little late, yeah. I would say it was a little late. Yeah, it was gross. It was dirty. We haven't seen a hit like that in a while, honestly, especially on a quarterback. It was not a great look. Yeah, didn't love it. That was a tough hit.
Yeah, especially when he threw a punch on the Bears sideline earlier this season, as Azeez Al-Shaair did. That did not result in a flag because the refs missed it. But yeah, it was not a good hit. I mean, listen, I'm not in his head. I don't know what he's thinking there, but clearly, there are plays when a quarterback slides late, and I always get kind of annoyed at those plays because it's what is a defender supposed to do? That was not one of those plays. No. Lawrence slid. There were plenty of time. It was literally legitimately shocking when I watched it. They put it on Red Zone, and I was like, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe he really went for it there.
Yeah, he just kept going. He didn't stop at all. I don't know what happened there. So it was a bizarre play. So yeah, Mac Jones had to come in. I actually thought Mac Jones played pretty well.
Mhm.
Crazy enough, um, man, this Texans team just feels so. Well, how do you fix this team right now?
I mean, I don't know. It's weird, right? Because I kept thinking like, okay, Nico Collins getting back is going to make this team better. I guess, like maybe like, but like you could say Stephon Diggs. The whole thing we talked about with this team was how deep they were at wide receiver. Because you have John Mechie, you have Robert Woods, like who are good role players. Even if they lose a guy, Nico Collins, who was very good in this game, they don't win this game without Nico Collins. As crazy as that sounds, I don't know. I mean, I I. I I guess Lawrence has to. I mean, not Lawrence. Stroud has to play better, probably, right?
Yeah, I think it's a huge part of it. I don't think he's playing very well. I still don't love, some of the decisions they make, but yeah, I don't think the defense is playing as well either, to be honest. Like you could say it was a late touchdown for the Jaguars, but at the same time, they missed a field goal that would have made it a 16-9 game. They did finally put together a nice, decent drive, 55-yard touchdown drive on 5 plays, got that going. But then immediately it was touchdown, give the ball back, touchdown drive, and then that was with 3:30 left that the Texans got the ball, having to ice the game. So I don't know, man. Like this team just feels kind of broken right now. Um, the, I feel like every team in the AFC has got to be chomping at the bit to play this team because I think I would take every team in the AFC right now that's making the playoffs over this team right now.
Oh yeah, especially when you think like it's probably gonna be the Chargers, the Steelers, or the Ravens who are the 5 seed.
Hmm.
Kyle, it's not a guarantee that they get in. I mean, you look at the Texans' schedule down the stretch. I had it up and I lost it 1 second, but it's okay. They played, they have a bye week, so they have 4 games left. They play the Dolphins, the Chiefs, and the Ravens. Their next 3 games. They finally finished the season with the Titans, who they just lost to. Like, okay, I think if they just go 1-3, they have enough of a lead against the Colts, they'll get in. Like there's a non-zero chance the Colts win the division here.
Yeah, it's a non-zero, but the tough thing is like the Colts will have to beat the Broncos next week. I think a
Hmm.
loss puts them at 8 losses, and it's just hard to believe that they're gonna. And then even then, like it's a 9-8 situation, and I think the Texans have that tiebreaker, right? Quickly verify. Yeah, they
Yeah,
have the
they do
head-to-head
because they won both.
tiebreakers.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to imagine that actually working in their favor.
Hmm.
But if they do pull off the upset next week, like or not next week, in 2 weeks, actually, that Broncos game,
Hmm.
uh, then it's a conversation. But I just think right now, I'm imagining the Colts lose that game, and then the Texans will be fine. But it's still a situation that I think needs addressing is how bad they've looked.
Yeah. No, to be clear, I think the Texans win the division. I'm just saying there's a non-zero chance, and when you're talking about the AFC South, that's not ideal.
Yeah,
I think it's very possible on the last game of the season they still have to make there's just
win. Yeah,
it'll take them to, it'll take them to week 18 to clinch. I think that's very possible.
yeah. And they lost to the Titans earlier this year, so
Yeah.
they would love to go in there and play spoiler.
Yeah. Kyle, any Jaguars thoughts?
No, no. They have a couple guys that I think are kind of fun. Brian
Mhm.
Thomas had a couple big plays in this game.
Yeah.
But I mean, it it's just a team that's they're regrouping for next year. Obviously, it seems like Doug Peterson's going to keep his job through the season. But he's going to get fired in the offseason. It's a team starting over.
Yeah. I think I agree. Let's move on. 4 games left. Well, this was a one-score game with playoff implications, so we can go to the Rams Saints, who, I mean, I was ready to do like, could the Saints make the playoffs conversation if they won this
Yeah,
game? They ultimately do not win this game. Derek Carr in the Blaine Gabbert zone, only 184 yards on 37 attempts. Amon Kamara had over 100 yards, but Taysom Hill, the leading Saints receiver, with 37 yards. Against a Rams team that has given up a lot of yards this season. I still don't think this Rams I don't think the Rams look great. The Rams have been a very weird team this season. I don't think that they come away feeling like super great about this game. I thought Stafford, kind of like he's been all season, was very inconsistent in this game. Made some really good plays, missed some plays as well. But ultimately, the Rams pick up a win they needed here.
yeah. Definitely picked up the win they needed. I thought the defense played well in this game. Taysom Hill took a pretty nasty injury in this game. That was unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
He'd actually played pretty well this year in general. So yeah, it's just a bizarre player and a unique player that they had. But I don't know how much longer he's going to have after this. It seems like because he's 34. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, it's a it was a frustrating game, I think, for the Saints offense, but I do think the Rams defense, which we have criticized at times this season, played pretty well. Made some plays in the secondary when they weren't getting a ton of pressure still, outside of Jared Verse, who had, I think he had 3 quarterback hits and everybody else had 0. So yeah, I thought there was some good stuff there, and then they did just enough, and Stafford made a couple plays.
Yeah. How do we feel about this Rams? I mean, the Rams, their pathway to the playoffs is simple. What they have to do is they can lose to the Bills next week. That's fine. And then essentially have to win out. Beat the 49ers, the Jets, and then have to beat the Cardinals and Seahawks. All possible, but they definitely have their work cut out for them.
It's still a long shot.
Mm.
They still got to make up a game there. And, I don't think 10 wins is making, 10 wins might sneak you in as a 7 seed too, but like it still feels
get
like
them
a
to
long
division.
shot. Yes, right.
No, because here's the thing: is if they win out, that takes a win away from both the Cardinals and Seahawks. So that would probably put them. I think that's how they would probably get in.
Yeah, and Seahawks do have a tough schedule. So I mean, the door is still open for them. It's more realistic than like a San Francisco situation, but they still need a lot to happen for them, I think.
Yeah, and they need to play better too. This probably isn't going to get it done. Let's move on. 3 games left. Let's go Miami, Green Bay. This was the, billed as one of the games of the week, the Thanksgiving night game. And there was a moment when it felt like the Dolphins could maybe make this a game. They started getting some points going. They got down to the 1-yard line, but ultimately couldn't score there, and that kind of iced it. Yeah, I mean, this was a dominant win by the Packers, even with Josh Jacobs only averaging 2.3 yards per carry.
Yeah, it was, I made this pick and I felt pretty strongly about the Packers. And then I forgot it was a cold weather Tua game.
Yeah.
And I actually thought Tua was actually good in this game. So that's fine. Yeah, I thought he played well. I don't want to make this a cold weather Tua thing, actually. But it's a cold weather Miami thing. And I don't know what happened there. They looked pretty lifeless for the first half of this game. Couldn't get anything going. Couldn't get stops. I don't know. Like I know that they had the chance to, get that one touchdown and make it interesting, but it just felt like we were watching a team that was playing on garbage time, and then Green Bay was on cruise control.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't disagree. I think like okay, I'm saying there was a chance. Like had they been able to, cause what was it? It was I'm trying to. So it was a 27-11 point game. So if they scored a touchdown, you're still down 2 scores. But it's like I'm just saying it was a game had they been able to get it there. But that was their problem is they got down so much they pretty much had to be perfect. Weren't able to do that. So yeah, I mean Miami's interesting because like they still do have a chance to make the playoffs. Probably their best way of doing that is by winning out, which is like not easy to do. But like their schedule, they play the Jets twice. They play the Texans, who I think I would pick the Dolphins over the Texans right now. They play the 49ers, who I think I would pick the Dolphins over the 49ers right now, and the Browns. But it's like, can you win all of those games is going to be the difficulty.
That's the tough thing. We keep talking about these teams, I feel like, in the playoff race, and it's like, well, if they win out, it's possible. And some of them do have favorable schedules, but like realistically, not everybody, very little of these teams are actually going to win out, even with games like the Jets and stuff on their schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's exactly it. Really good win by the Packers, I think.
Yeah, great stuff there. As I was kind of tipping them as the team that might be the 3rd team in the NFC, I do like to see this win. I thought the defense looked phenomenal for large stretches of this game. I thought Jordan Love did exactly what Jordan Love needed to do in this game. Didn't take a lot of chances. Was smart with the football. Looked like a little bit of the Jordan Love at the end of last season. And I think Packers fans should be excited about this team. I think they're in the zone.
Do we have the cold weather conversation? I mean, like, I think part of the issue is more the Dolphins like don't play well against good teams, more so, and cold weather games tend to be, in the playoffs where they also struggle. Like it is a thing. Like it's very clearly a thing. Like in cold weather and against good teams, this Dolphins team struggles.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it is. Like it feels like a situation. Like I said, they came out really slow in this game. They looked kind of rattled, and I don't know. Like it definitely felt like a thing for sure. So I don't really know if it's a like definitive thing, and I think this team's okay, but at the same time, just doesn't seem like it's happening for them this year at this point. Maybe too little, too late.
Yeah. 2 games left to talk about. Both are kind of, we're doing our homework here, Kyle, getting rid of the other couple. But, the Commanders are very fun to watch. This was we saw them look like Washington again, in a good way. Jane Daniels, I thought, played very well. The running game was working again. Titans aren't that good of a team, but their defense has shown some flashes. And, they make too many mistakes. Their special teams make mistakes. They turned the ball over, all that. We saw a couple nice Will Levis throws in here, but as a whole, this was a dominant Washington win.
Definitely a dominant Washington win. I was kind of interested in seeing this game because, he's not like a star on this team or anything, but Austin Eckler had been kind of an important player on this team because he can catch the ball at the backfield. He'd been running pretty well, and the junior duo of Brian Robinson Jr. and Chris Rodriguez Jr. both were phenomenal in this game. They dominated on the ground. And then, I thought this looked a lot more like the Jaden Daniels we had seen earlier in the season. I thought he was borderline flawless in this game. 25 to 30 passing, which is just unnaturally good again. I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah. Again, one of those games we could kind of could have been an email. I don't know. But this is a big win for Washington, right? Who just lost to Dallas. You're viewing them as like, okay, is this going to happen? They're in a really interesting spot. I feel like every game now we're just talking about what teams have to do to make the playoffs. But so they play the Saints, the Eagles, the Falcons, and then the Cowboys. If we assume they beat the Saints and the Cowboys and lose to the Eagles, that Falcons game is huge because if they lose to the Falcons, then that could mean that the Falcons could potentially win the division, meaning the Buccaneers, they have to make sure that they can stay ahead of them because the Buccaneers have the tiebreakers. So even though they're not really competing directly with the Falcons, helping the Falcons win the division hurts them in terms of the wild card. So that's just an interesting game that could decide their playoff fate on December 29th.
Yep. Big games down the stretch. They have to win 4 of them. I do think that they have a good chance.
They have 4 games left, so they could go.
Yeah, they need to win. I think they need to win the 3 that they should. I just want to see them win those 3 and then take care of business there.
Yeah, and I think they will. I think they'll get in, but big win here. Kyle, Giants, Cowboys. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts here.
I did take a nap during this game.
Okay.
I was in a food
This was
coma.
the nap game.
Yeah. It was not a fun rewatch, big Rico Dowdle game as we all wanted on Thanksgiving. So, good for him. Not really much else happened.
Turpin was the leading receiver in this one.
Yeah. It was not a good offensive performance for Dallas. Outside of Dowdle.
And they won.
Yeah, I know. Drew Lock was not too awesome in this game either. No. That was the other problem.
Maybe it's Tommy DeVito time again.
No, Drew Lock's still better. I feel pretty confident saying that. That was a better performance than anything they would have got out of Tommy DeVito.
Say something nice about the Giants.
Their backup quarterback probably makes a good big ZD.
Okay, yeah. Malik Neighbors was good.
Yeah, he was good. Sure.
Yeah. And then the Cowboys. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. This game was stupid.
we all shouldn't. America was napping during this. That's what we wanted.
Yeah, this is just what you throw on. I guess we'll throw this game on. Something to put in the background while we hang out.
I was watching afternoon soccer.
Yeah, that's probably the move. Yeah, that is it, Kyle. Bit of a long show, but we were able to move pretty quickly.
We tried our best. It's tough to pay some of these 16-game weeks, and we did our best.
Yeah, well, we have some more bye weeks next week, and then finally bye weeks are over. Then the home stretch, only 5 games remaining.
5 games remaining, really? Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast it goes, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a shame that sports don't matter and we're all going to die soon anyway. So that's all that's important.
Yeah, no, but the fact that we're all going to die is why sports matter. Anyway, thank you to everybody. Kyle, let them know where you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin. And make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, if you like audio-only podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline Podcast. It will be available there. Stay tuned next week where Kyle and I discuss nihilism and if it's the right move or not.
Looking forward to that. Yeah. I got nothing else. I'm tired.
Okay, well, let's let Kyle get out of here. Again, thank you to everybody. We do appreciate it. We'll be back Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time for our preview show. And until then, have a good one.
Peace.